Hello everybody, it's Azza and welcome to 80's Portal. Now today I decided I'd make a video of the top 20 best horror films of the 1980s. Now I decided I would do 2 films per year of the decade because, well, I can't really decide on which film is the best, so without further ado let's get straight to this. So for 1980, the first film I'm going to have is The Shining from 1980. So this film is about a hotel and this family who moved to a hotel, and the dad of this family, who's played by Jack Nicholson, has gotten a job as a caretaker for it. But he's also a writer and thinks the seclusion of the place will be good for him to write his novel. However, the seclusion, so the cabin fever, plus the fact that there are ghosts wandering all over the place and convincing him to kill his family, basically drives him insane. It's a really good film. I think you should go check it out. The second film from 1980 has to go to The Fog by John Carpenter. The Fog is about a little town on an island which was founded by several men. Now, these men, years before, basically massacred a whole load of lepers. So, right, wrong, and bunch. And years later, the ghosts of these lepers have come back to the town to kill, basically go on a murder spree to exact their revenge. It's a really good film. It's got many of the people from Halloween, so Jamie Lee Curtis and Sheriff Brackett and Nancy and whatnot. So go check that out. Right, now we're on to 1981. So the first film from 1981 I would suggest is The Evil Dead by Sam Raimi. And yes, that is the same Sam Raimi who made the Spider-Man films. Now, this is about a group of friends going to a cabin in the woods in Middle America, and they find the Book of the Dead. They read from it, and it releases the Kandarian demon, which eventually starts possessing the friends, ultimately leading them to ending up killing each other. So, pretty good film. Has one controversial scene in it, but other than that, solid film. So, second film from 1981 has to go to American Werewolf in London. Now, the American Werewolf in London is about 2 American backpackers who go to Britain on a backpacking mission, and they get attacked by a werewolf. One of the friends is killed, while the other is bitten and taken back to London Hospital. Now that he's back in London, the dead friend starts coming back to him in various states of decay and tells him that when the next full moon, he will turn into a werewolf and start killing people. Now, this film has quite good humour, quite solid humour. It has very light-hearted humour, despite the depressing ending. I suggest you go check it out. Now, for 1982, I'm picking the first film is The Thing. Now, The Thing was made by John Carpenter, and it's about a research group in Antarctica or someplace like that, an Arctic place, I can't quite remember. And this group find a shuttle with an alien on it, but this alien can mimic any person there, and can even has to completely devour things, completely demolish them, absolutely demolish them. Now, this eventually causes conflict in the group because they don't know who is the human and who is the alien. And it's got Kurt Russell in it. It's pretty good. Go check it out. Second film from 1982 is Poltergeist. Now, Poltergeist is about a family who move into a home, and it just so happens that this home was built on an ancient Indian burial ground. Now, this burial ground just makes it so that there is now a spirit there. And this spirit abducts the little girl, and so what happens is they have to go into a different dimension and save the girl. It is the perfect mix of Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg. Don't know who Tobe Hooper is. Tobe Hooper is the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I would really suggest you watch that. Really recommend it. Right, now we're on to 1983. Now 1983, I would say one of the first best horror film is Cujo. Cujo is about a friendly Saint Bernard who gets bitten by a rabid bat. Now, this bat has rabies. It's a rabid bat. And eventually, the rabies affects Cujo, poor Cujo, and he becomes a violent Saint Bernard. So, Yay! Killer Dog on our hands. So, Killer Dog film. It's written by Stephen King, so you might want to check it out. Another 1983 film is Sleepaway Camp. Now, Sleepaway Camp is an interesting slasher film. It takes place on a camp, original. But the thing about it is it has one of the best twists in film history. We find out that the girl, Angela, is the killer. Now, I'm not going to reveal any more than that. That's not even the twist. So, that's not even the twist. So, yeah, that's it. Right, now we're on to 1984. Now, 1984, the first film I would choose is Friday the 13th, Part 4. Now, Jason Voorhees is a 80s icon. I'm pretty sure he had every film in almost every year of the decade, except for 1983 and 1987, I think. So, Part 4 is my favourite. 4 is my favourite one because, one, it has Corey Feldman in it as a young Tommy Jarvis, and 2, it has Crispin Glover as a socially awkward teen. Now, so Crispin Glover, his character, gets killed. He takes a corkscrew to the hand and a cleaver to the face. Really violent. Now, time for the other film, which is Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street was directed by Wes Craven and gave the world Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger is unlike any other slasher villain in film history. Freddy Krueger has a personality. He's not hidden behind a mask. Also, he can only kill you while you're asleep. So, what the hell? If you can get killed when you're most vulnerable, when you're asleep, what can you do? So, Nightmare on Elm Street, another good film. Right, 1985. For my first choice in 1985, it is Reanimator. Now, Reanimator is an adaptation of a H.P. Lovecraft serial. And serial as in book series and not serial. And it was directed by Stuart Gordon and produced by Brian Usner. And if you know Brian Usner, he is known for amazing effects. And this film goes all out. It doesn't follow any of the rules that films have established before and even after. It goes all out gore. Brian Usner and Stuart Gordon really wanted to push the boundaries of the horror genre with Reanimator. So, pretty good film. Good film. Good zombie film as well. Now, another 1985 film is, ironically, another zombie film, but more of a straight-up zombie film. It is Return of the Living Dead. Now, Return of the Living Dead is an interesting take, because it doesn't... if you look at that initially, you might think it's a sequel to the Night of the Living Dead, or the Living Dead series, like Dawn of the Dead, maybe. But it's not. It's completely different. These zombies are interesting. Usually when you think of a zombie, you think, oh, how do I kill a zombie? I sever his head, or I destroy his brain. Basically, destroy the head. But with the Return of the Living Dead zombies, you can't just do that. It's not the brain that's infected, it's the nerves. So, if you cut off the arm, it will move on its own. Every single bit of the body is independent. So, this raises the stakes quite considerably. So, yeah, really good film. Also, it's also got even more humour in it, much like American Werewolf in London. The main humour comes from how brain dead the characters are, so... That's 1985. Right, now we're on to 1986. Now, the first film from 1986 is The Fly, starring Jeff Goldblum, and directed by David Cronenberg. Now, this is a remake of the original 1950s Fly film. Now, this is all about a man who makes a teleporter, and when he's testing it out for the first time, a fly gets in there with him. And so when he teleports from one machine to the other, the fly and him, the particles of the fly get mixed up. And so he has some DNA of the fly. And so eventually he begins falling to bits at the seams. He vomits on his food before eating it, as a fly would. He basically turns into a human fly. And it has amazing body horror practical effects in it. So I'd really check that out. Now, for my other film in 1986, it's quite a hidden gem. It's called Chopping Mall. and it's all about a shopping centre with a brand new security system, which is robots. They're called security bots, I think, and they roam around the place after hours, basically arresting burglars. Thing is, something goes wrong. Someone, or at least that something happens that they malfunction and eventually go on a killing spree with the people left inside the mall who aren't doing anything wrong. So, bit of a hidden gem, some camp there. It's a pretty good film, pretty good special effects as well, despite the fact that the only real special effects are the robots, which they do look pretty cool. So yeah. And now for 1987, first film in 1987 is Evil Dead 2 by Sam Raimi. Now, I've already covered Evil Dead 1, because that's a pretty good film, but Evil Dead 2 is a whole different story. Evil Dead 2, the first little bit of it is a remake of the first film, just with less characters. They go to the main character, Ash, and his girlfriend, Linda, I think it is. They go to a cabin in the woods, and they find the Book of the Dead. What happens? And then more people come who were, I think it was the daughter of the man who found the Book of the Dead. They return to the cabin and find Ash basically out of his mind, being freaked out by stuff. So it's really funny. It has Bruce Campbell in it, and it's way more comedic than the first one. The first one is quite disturbing, and quite has quite a depressing ending as well. This one is way more uplifting at the end. And, yeah. Now, the same cannot be said for my next film. The next film I'm going to cover is the 1987 classic Hellraiser. Hellraiser is a whole different story. It's polar opposite to Evil Dead 2. It is really graphic. Basically, it surrounds a man who finds a puzzle box called the Lament Configuration. He opens it and gets ripped to bits, basically. And then when people who, his relatives move into this house, one of them cuts their finger on something, and that bit of blood basically reanimates him into like a pile of guts and whatnot. And so he has to kill people in order to find that. And of course you can't mention Hellraiser without mentioning the Cenobites, and most particularly Pinhead. He is the poster boy of the Hellraiser franchise, but really my favourite one is the first one. So, yeah. That was it. Now, we've come to the end of this list for the last 2 years of the 1980s. Now we're on to 1988. So the first film, it goes without saying, the first film of 1988 is Child's Play. Child's Play is the film that gave us the wisecracking, one-liner spewing killer doll that is Chucky. Brad Dourif portrays him perfectly. And I know that Chucky is way more prominent in the 90s than he is in the 80s, but the first film was from 1988, and it's pretty good. He doesn't spew as many one-liners in this film. We do see the creation of Chucky when Charles Lee Ray gets killed at the very beginning of the film. So, pretty good film. First beginning of an absolute 90s icon, so you can thank the 80s for that. Right, now the next one is a pretty ridiculous film, but I love it nonetheless. It is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is still streaming on Netflix. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. This is basically, it says in the titles, there are killer clowns from outer space, and they come to Earth invading, basically. And they kill people in the most creative of ways. Like, they will throw pies at you with acid in them. They will literally put on boxing gloves and punch your head off, as happens to a guy. And then another thing is that they will just put you in a sack of cotton candy and eat you later. So, pretty wacky film. Still funny though, still pretty fun. Now, for the 1989. This is the final year, and have last two films. So the first film is Pet Sematary, another run written by Stephen King. Basically, a doctor called Louis Creed, he discovers a place, when the family are out, the cat dies, and so he discovers a place called the Pet Cemetery So he buries the cat there, and about like a week later, the cat returns, but it's violent and not the same as usual. Soon, his little boy Gage gets run over by a big rig, and so he gets the idea to bury Gage in the pet cemetery and rise him up. And so, of course, you can imagine what happens. Little baby kid killing people. So, yeah. This one is way more depressing, has a way darker note to it. So, yeah, if you want to scare yourself silly, watch Pet Sematary. Now, my last film is Society by Brian Usner. Now, we've already mentioned Brian Usner with Reanimator, but Society makes Reanimator look like a cakewalk. Society is basically about this group of human beings that somewhat predate regular human beings, and they do this thing called the shunting. And I can't even describe it. You're going to need to watch the film to just see it. It's basically a way to kill people and eat someone, but I can't quite describe it. I mean, just a mishmash of body parts, I can imagine, I can just say, but I can't really just do it justice just by explaining it. So, Society is a good film. That's my last one for 1989. Right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I haven't put any of these into, like, the best or worst. These are just films I enjoyed. So, I hope you enjoyed this list. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.